Yeah, yes, yes. You can hear me, right?
Yes, Abhinav.
Okay.
Hi, this is Ashish.
Hi, hello Ashish sir. How are you?
Hi. Good, doing well, thank you. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good, sir.
Yeah, Ashish, how are you?
Good, good. I'm doing well enough. Thank you so much.
We'll wait for other folks to join in, and then we'll start around three.
Okay,
Yeah, three IST.
okay, okay. All right, I'm going to be on mute and I'm going to switch off my camera till that time.
No issues. Yeah, sure.
Hello.
Right. Hi, Rochak. How are you?
Hey, hi Abhinav. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for joining in a bit early. I think Ashish is also here. If you haven't met him, and then of course we're waiting for Naveen, and we'll start at around three. Yeah, yeah. Naveen is also here.
Hey, hi everyone. Hello.
Hi, Rochak.
Hi,
Good to
Naveen.
meet you.
Right, so I can hear you clearly, Rochak, and I can also see. I mean, there's no issues in the video as well. So I'll be back to the presentation mode where there'll be music, and we'll start
Right.
shortly in another about 7-8 minutes as participants join in. Right.
Right.
Thank you.
You.
Hi Abhinav, can you hear me?
So, Abhinav, while we are waiting for the other participants to join in, why don't you just give us a little brief about your organization and what's the frequency of these webinars that you conduct?
Sure, Ashish. So yeah, that's a great question actually. So we as an organization have always focused on cost optimization and margin improvements, and we have done that with about 200, 250 plus customers now. These are generally large enterprises across India, Asia, Africa, the Middle East, so on and so forth. By cost optimization and margin improvements via digital, I mean solutions like API automation, paperless office, shared services automation, robotic process automation, so on and so forth, right? So typically that's the zone we are in, and then I'll love to share our corporate deck with you also, so you have better understanding. But coming to your later part of the question, yeah, we do this, continuous webinars every week, and these are generally around, our zone, which is cost optimization via solutions like AP automation, or our own product called Velocious sourcing and supplier collaboration platform. Sometimes around paperless office, sometimes around automation, so on and so forth. But we've seen that there is growing demand of our, our participants generally are a mix of folks from IT, folks from different functions, generally like procurement or finance, so on and so forth. There was growing demand of actually AI webinars. People want to understand about AI, Gen AI, related technologies, and how they can actually employ them within their business operations. So that's where we thought that we'll actually go ahead and reach out to AI thought leaders like yourselves and do kind of panel discussions on a regular basis. I mean, monthly, maybe twice, bi-monthly, right? And and have our participants kind of ask questions, so make it more interactive.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. And when you say optimization, and you of course mentioned about AP optimization, so you especially you're talking about the inventory optimization, logistics, and inventory optimization.
No, so all of the in a like all of the functions except maybe R&D. But all of this, I'll give you an example. Like we have done automation for procurement, logistics as well, but not physical automation. I talk about of course digital automation. So yeah, uh, all of the functions. So typically, if you see F&A, procurement, HR, there'll be IT, there'll be master data. So these kind of functions.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think we have some attendees. I'll just right. So thank you, people, for joining in a bit early. We'll start really shortly. We'll give it another 3 to 4 minutes as more people join in, and then we'll start. Right. So thank you for joining in. Right. Let me get to this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all those of you who have joined us. It seems to be an exciting webinar on the way ahead. My name is Abhinav. I'm part of the marketing team here at Avali Solutions. What we do here is that we do recurring webinars every week on some of the very contemporary, some of the very relevant, topics such as digital, such as AI, so on and so forth. Now, this is a new series that we have launched, and this marks the beginning of it. We ought to do a lot of panel discussion around AI, and we want to invite, as thought leaders that you'll see today, thought leaders like Ashish, Rochak, as well as Naveen, right? So all before I get into introducing my panel today, and then of course having a very very spirited panel discussion today, I'll quickly walk you through the housekeeping items. All lines are muted for clarity purpose. Of course, should you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please feel free to utilize the Q&A section. We'll be very happy, to answer those. Of course, my our panel thought leaders will be very happy to answer those, right? But yeah, having said that, this webinar is of about 45 minutes. We'll have these question and answers, and of course, we'll reserve few minutes towards the end for specific questions from the audience, right? Having said that, let me quickly introduce my panel for today. Joining us is Ashish Gupta. He's head of data analytics and regional IT leader for Americas at Revity. He's led a global team of data professionals who have delivered innovative and impactful solutions for different companies with diverse portfolios of products and services. He has about 20 plus years of experience in IT, in different domains such as data strategy, IoT, so on and so forth, so and and other domains. He's also proficient in big data, ETL, cloud technologies, and of course has Six Sigma Green Belt certification as well, and is also mentioned as 100 most influential AI leaders in India 2022. So Ashish, welcome on board and thank you for accepting this invite. I'm sure audience will learn a lot from you, right? So thank you.
Thank you, enough.
Right. So my next guest is of course my next panel discussion. Our panelist is Naveen Rathani, who is data science and analytics lead at Wells Fargo. He's an experienced data science manager with knack of solving challenges by successfully developing high impact analytical solutions. Is skilled in statistical data analysis, predictive modeling, neural networks, so on and so forth, and is also awarded 40 under 40 data scientists from MLDS, which is the Machine Learning Development Summit. Okay. So Naveen, welcome to you as well. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you for having me, Abhinav. Hey,
Right.
everyone.
And of course, our last and certainly not the least is panelist is Mr. Rochak Khanna, who is data science and analytics professional and enthusiast. Is about 10 plus years experience in consulting as well as analytics industry. He possesses seasoned and hands-on ML skills. He's experienced in new age technologies like Hadoop, SAS, SQL, Python, so on and so forth. And he's also been the speaker at MLDS, which is the Machine Learning Developer Summits for 2024. So, Rochak, thank you for joining.
Thanks, Abhinav. Thanks for having me.
Right. So, yeah, welcome again, attendees. Yeah. So let me just quickly. This is a very, 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 very common question to all three of you, rather, and of course anybody can answer. But I wanted to ask about what do you believe are some of the most critical considerations for organizations looking to successfully implement Gen AI solutions so that they can drive meaningful business transformations. And these are some of the recurring questions that we receive from a lot of our conversation with our prospective customers. So this is a very relevant question. So maybe maybe Ashish can start. Yeah, Ashish, I'll have you start, and then of course move on to next panelist.
Sure, sure. And thank you, Abhinav. And hi, welcome everyone. Well, you know, I'll just take an example, of our journey into Gen AI space. That's going to be more relevant than I just give you contextual information. So see, when we started a journey towards Gen AI, what was our major consideration? So first thing that you have to consider, really consider, you have to think about is the sponsorship. you know
Yeah.
Executive sponsorship towards Gen AI. People do not need to just morally support a Gen AI program, they need to monetarily support Gen AI program as well. An organization need to have monetary commitment towards Gen AI. They need to understand that these are disruptors in the industry. So with just a blessing will not help. Monetary support, understanding that there might be failures in this journey, and embracing those failures is the most critical thing. So that's how our journey started. Our leadership understood, our executive management understood that there's a sponsorship required both monetarily and of course morally. And then after that, there are a lot of other things to consider. For example, employee readiness. Are your employees ready for it or not? And
Yeah.
when I say employee readiness, I do not mean whether they are skilled or not. It's a mindset. What do people carry? A lot of people, they're very scared of AI. What's going to happen? It's going to take our jobs. Do we really venture into it or not? But so that's where I think that mindset needs to be developed among the employees. That this is the way to go. Either you get into it or you get left out, right? And then of course other things come in. Data readiness. Do you have data? Without data, AI is nothing, right? So do you have the right data in the right place to build AI solutions? A lot of other things come in, risk analysis, risk management, etc., etc. I can keep going on and on and on, but in the interest of time, I'll just pass it on to others.
Right, right, right. So yeah, yeah. Thank you for that, Ashish. Actually, very important points in terms of employee readiness, in terms of sponsorship. Sponsorship from key stakeholders, of course, who will actually sponsor those projects. So yeah, Rochak, Naveen, what do you think about this? You know,
I think definitely a very valid question, and I'll probably second Ashish on all the points that he made. That to start with, you need to have that support and that vision from the organization. And I think when I just look back and talk about how we have developed or moved from, say, data analysis to business analytics, how data science was erstwhile called as, and then moving into no new age technologies at Dhanambi here. Uh, I mean, let's be honest, not everything requires Gen AI. So you might just need ML, BI, or sometimes even predictive AI, or sometimes even simple rule-based approach to solve a problem. So I think it is very important to align those objectives to the overarching business goals. I mean, where you want to actually implement Gen AI and then set and get the right talent in place, something that Ashish mentioned. And something that actually carries on from there is learning and finding those customized use cases. So I mean, we are all here talking about Gen AI is because OpenAI made it as a mainstream topic. And when ChatGPT was actually launched to public in November 2022, I think it was almost after 5 or 6 such chatbots that it was made available to public so that it can make a more user-friendly version. So I mean, the point I'm getting to is, it is all about inviting employees to provide feedback, personal inputs, so that you can enable truly relevant use cases for Gen AI to work towards it. And again, data quality, data monetization has already been touched upon by Ashish. Something I'll just want to add on would be that we need to enable ethical use of Gen
yeah,
AI and data when we want to use it, because I think it's all about adopting how do I put it, like privacy by design principles. So, for instance, I'm based out here in Danambi office in Oslo, and we are very much critical about ensuring GDPR regulations, so General Data Protection Regulation norms, that the European Union is very critical about. So at the end, we are working with customer data, which can be identifiable. So making sure that we put the right procedures in place before we scale up those Gen AI solutions. I think, yeah, those will be my 2 cents to add.
right, right. All great points, Rochak. Especially like the part where you mentioned about ethics and data privacy, and where is that boundary, and how do organizations set up those, ethical principles before actually using AI in their day to day, right? I'll just move on to Naveen. Naveen, what's your take?
Sure, Abhinav. So I think I'll just touch upon one aspects from each Ashish and Rochak to expand on it. I think Ashish, you brought that point of mindset, right? Which of course is really important. But just to bring that bit of clarity, I think anytime we start a Gen AI use case, before going there itself, the question is it really a Gen AI use case?
Hmm.
The task that we're trying to solve for, is it really requiring a generative capability, or is it more of a descriptive or sort of a discriminative capability, right? And so I think we sort of in this whole wave in the last 2.5 years have fallen to the point that we did have generative use cases before this as well. We had GANs to be used extensively. We had autoencoders, variates autoencoders, etc. And so all that we were doing back then was just sort of generating a lot of numerical data. But text has really changed the landscape significantly. When now we are able to do a lot of multimodal use cases through these capabilities. And so that is what changes significantly, and that is where the scale and complexity changes. With respect to one aspect that Rochak called out is where me coming not from a consulting background right here, I'm coming more from an industry, a very, very regulated industry here. I represent Wells Fargo as a bank. Um, for us, every single generative AI use case becomes a very simple question, first of all, of understanding, is it something we can go via the open source route, or do we really need an enterprise route? And the reason that it becomes important is something that Rochak touched upon with respect to GDPR, but it applies across all geographies that we work with, right? Even in India, when we are doing vendor contract negotiations, and if we put in a Gen AI sort of layer within it, then our DSPDT regulations come in. If we do it in US, the California regulations come in. So privacy is one aspect, security is the other aspect. Cost obviously becomes very, very critical. It's not easy to day in day out query through these GPT-3s, 3.5s, and GPT-4s. It's very, very expensive, right? And the fourth piece is about capability. Not every, I mean, we think of these as names, right? Llama, Palm, and so on. They all have very different capabilities in terms of where they outshine the other. And so understanding what capability are we trying to solve for is again a very critical consideration of whether it will really make that impact. Was this 2 cents?
Right. Very nicely put, Naveen. My next question is to Ashish, right? How do you perceive Gen AI's potential for disrupting traditional businesses, business models across industries? And the next part of the question is that what strategic implications rather does this hold for organizations?
Yeah. So see, I don't think anyone, in this forum or outside this forum will deny the fact that Gen AI has impacted them in certain way, what they do at work or outside. Take some very simple examples, So there've been so many protests happening in the US around these content creators, movie creators, Gen AI is doing all that work.
Yeah.
So everything that people used to do, they used to sit, think about, do those things, Gen AI is doing. If I take my simple examples in my world, in my corporate world, what we do, we have some very simple use cases. For example, we have an AR collection use case. We have a long tail of account receivables.
Yep.
Some things which are more than $10,000, of course, we have manpower, we go after those. But these smaller ones, we do not have that bandwidth and the time to actually reach out to the customers. We brought in Gen AI. We are sending those automatic reminders, not templatized, very
Yeah.
customized
Personalized.
reminders, personalized reminders to the customers based on their response. Gen AI classifies it, whether they are agreeing to pay, not agreeing to pay. Just a simple example,
Yeah.
right? So every industry is getting touched with Gen AI. Talk about automation, talk about, all the mundane tasks that people were doing earlier. Now, of course, goes back to my earlier point that that's again a mindset now. People think that, hey, it's going to take away my job. But again, there's a lot of debate on this topic that what's the outcome? Will Gen AI or AI really take away jobs, or it will leave people to work on more meaningful things other than those cookie cutters?
Yeah.
And while, we're just not talking about cookie cutters, it can do something very, very special, some very special things as well that we just talked about. So I think it has immense potential. It's going to change. We just not even scratch the surface. It's going to change the way industry works.
Right. I mean, I especially like the point you touched upon one specific industry in terms of entertainment in Hollywood, where it's taking away jobs of extras and actors who are definitely living their daily wages rather they're daily workers, right? So yeah, I like that one. From moving from entertainment movie to in the context of BFSI, right, Naveen, I wanted to ask you in the context of BFSI, how do you envision Gen AI contributing to the development of more robust fraud detection and prevention mechanism, since it's a very recurring issue, right? So how do you see that panning out?
So, Abhinav, I'll break it down into two pieces, right?
Yep.
One piece is identifying fraud itself or classifying fraud on any given transaction or any given activity. That is still a discriminative task at the end of the day. You're at the end of the day classifying something. So it's not per se a generative task that way. Where things sort of help with the generative angle is as it should be fairly common knowledge, right? Fraud is a very sparse sort of an event, right? On
Yeah.
every million observations, you'll find hardly 100 or 200 frauds, and they vary in terms of their patterns. So
Hmm.
where generative AI first of all helps is giving us a significant edge in terms of creating newer samples, which are synthetic in terms of how fraud can happen. So because generative AI has such and it's a term called hallucination, right? So because generative AI has the ability to sort of hallucinate so much, depending on how much constraint we provide it and how much context we give it, data augmentation becomes far more superior when we leverage generative AI, and we've done that significantly well in the last few POCs in the last year.
Hmm.
So that's one way where our models this way train much more better because they have significantly general distribution of how fraud can come in the training data, and
Hmm.
similarly in the validation space. The other place where it helps is on the other side of the spectrum, where once fraud is identified by a model, what usually happens in any bank will be there will be an analyst sitting who will look at that particular case, review it in terms of all the details that have come in for that transaction, and then compare it against the policy documents, right?
Hmm.
So when that piece happens is where again you can plug in generative AI from that perspective, and this is something we're actively exploring. How can we provide the context of the policy documents, leverage the information of the data that has been provided by the model in terms of the probability and so on, and the features that it considers as most important for predicting the fraud for that particular transaction, and seeing if that can be improved and thereby reduce the analyst's dependency on too much manual work. So this where we see at this point how generative AI can help in fraud remediation efforts.
Nicely put, nicely put, and I especially like that hallucinogen part where AI has the now the no buzzword in terms of kind of imagining, for lack of better term, and understanding and imagining. Wow, so that's good actually. So from BFSI, let's move on to retail industry, and I want to ask Rochak, as a leader in retail analytics, how do you anticipate Gen AI transforming customer segmentation strategies? Where you segment customers based on XYZ parameters and enable more targeted marketing campaigns in the retail.
Uh, in retail, actually, it started from the whole bucket of customer service, which we all know that chatbots are already doing it. And for us in Danambi also, it was about two set of customers. One is your end consumer who actually consumes the products, and the other customer. Search. So, for instance, you can take an example of Instacart's Ask Instacart feature. Actually, they help the customer traverse through their library of products online using a chatbot. We thought for our retailers, we are providing a sort of business intelligence reports based on Power BI, MicroStrategy, but can we actually use Gen AI to use that data and provide them more customized text-based insights, which actually, the C-level execs can just use it and go ahead in their meetings, be it morning meetings or whatever talks they want to go about. So that's where, our thinking on, seeing the potential of Gen AI started, the whole customer service space, but looking at customer from an angle of a retailer. And the other bit that right now within retail is being explored a lot is around personalization and moving from one-to-one personalization to a level of hyper personalization.
Hmm.
So it's about ability to personalize, say, every single customer transaction and interaction. As of now, yes, it is based on sophisticated AI models, ML models, classifications running on behavioral data, but using customers' social media journeys, their interactions with different touch points. Those are the bits where Gen AI is actually helping a lot to create certain POC models where you can, get and generate more content because Gen AI is nothing but a subset of AI where it's about generating more and more content. And that's where the focus is right now. How can we add more attributes, which is just not related to that transaction that a customer did in a store, but much beyond that. And then product recommendations, another bit
Mm.
that is coming up in a big way. So again, something that traditionally has been built on top of certain AI models, but how can we harness the power of natural language processing to create even more personalized product recommendations? So how can we, if there's a product review that a customer has put in, we are looking at options where those product reviews can be summarized so that customer don't doesn't have to go across say 1,000 product reviews and
Yeah.
say that
Yeah.
how and what he should be looking for. It's more about how can we summarize this. Again, all relates back to how can we harness that potential of NLP. So all in all, I would say there's a huge potential, but again, all these areas that I cited are still like in stage of POC, waiting for wider rollouts. Because I still remember having discussions with my retailers where we show them we have so much opportunities, and they say how exciting it sounds, but it's also scary at the same time that you know
Yeah.
so much about a customer. So again, getting back to the point, if we have to integrate all these possibilities into retail workflows, it is a steep learning curve, and at the same time would involve, maintaining that consumer trust from this emerging technology and making sure, we implement Gen AI in the right place at the right time.
Right. Well, very well put, Rochak. So I'll pause for a second here and ask maybe, a request. All the attendees, if you have any questions for the panelists, feel free to utilize the chat section or the Q&A section and let those questions come in. And of course, we'll take them towards the end. But if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy, right? Okay, let me then move on. Uh, uh, right. So, in general terms of customer expectation, considering that the landscape is evolving in terms of customer expectations, which Rochik also briefly touched upon with respect to retail. But in general terms, how does GI, or rather, how can Gen AI be leveraged to enhance personalized customer experiences and also drive brand loyalty? And that's very recurring, very important. So I'll go to Ashish for this. If you want me to repeat, I'll just repeat. Considering the evolving landscape of customer expectations, how do you see Gen AI being leveraged for personalized customer experiences and brand loyalty?
Yeah. So, I'll share my views around it. In fact, the work company I work with is more into B2B space. So of
Yeah.
course, we are not yet there. So in fact, consider Gen AI or AI solutions in an organization. So one side of solutioning is around productivity improving, right? Internal processes, improvement, productivity improvement, etc. Second side is, as you said, customer expectations, the customer loyalty, customer experience. Now, see, if I look at the customer experience, of course, we have seen a lot of companies, a lot of startups, especially where they have these conversational AI, the chatbots, etc. That's a different feature, but bigger than that, I just take an analogy. So think about a cricket match. When you watch a cricket match, most of the decisions are taken by an umpire, but the accurate decisions taken by third umpire, right?
Yes.
Why don't we make change the game of cricket where all the decisions are made by the third umpire, which is going to be
Yeah.
very accurate, right? Very accurate to the point. It's digitally driven, but we do not want to do that because it's going to spoil the fun of the game, right? But is that true in the customer in the corporate world as well? Do we really want to work on our guts most of the time, and then for just a few cases we want to go digital? No, that's not the case. Pretty much wherever we can go digital, we want to go digital, right? In the customer world. So to me, if I look at my shopping trend today, right? You go to Flipkart, it recommends you something. You go to Amazon, it recommends. So I think that's how the world is changing. The conversational UIs, the automation that this brings in, the entire AI brings in. I think that's what the impact of AI is. Which, of course, once you have that experience, you will go back. Say
Mm.
Lenskart, a very simple example. Of course, I'm not going to get into very complicated examples. Lens card, you want to try out something, you want to try out a specs on your face. It allows you. It's a part of AI, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so will I go back to lens card to buy my frame, or will I go back to the market? Again, it's just that, what offerings do I have? How do I pursue my solutioning? Based on that, the customer loyalty will improve.
Right, right. Right, very, very, very valid points, Ashish. I'll go to Naveen for my next question, and of course, I have two more questions before I wrap up this panel discussion. Attendees, if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to address those, ask those questions to our panelists. My next question is to Naveen. With increasing regulatory scrutiny in the industry that you belong to, which is financial industry, what ethical considerations should organizations consider when deploying Gen AI for for risk management as well as compliance?
Sure. So I think this is something that I can probably write a thesis on. It's that elaborate when it comes to our industries. But I'll probably start with a simple example. I don't know how many of you are aware of this small sort of remembrance of Pandit Ravi Shankar that SBI posted on Twitter and Facebook. It was a very small image that they created saying celebrating 125 years of Pandit Ravi Shankar. It had a guitar in the hands of Pandit Ravi Shankar. It was generated image.
Okay.
So they had to pull it off in, I think, another 3 hours or so. That just kind of highlights the gravity of things that can go wrong the moment a regulated player starts to push content outside. Now, this was
Mhm,
just probably a marketing concept, but think
mhm,
of it when a chatbot is trying to sort of communicate with a customer or with the vendor, and then some information leaks, or there
mhm.
is some way
Right.
where and this is an active use case across major banks where we're just trying to understand, can these chatbots, if they're interfaced with these LLMs which are open source, is there a way that they can hack into the systems and sort of get information divulged outside the scope of what we are talking about in that conversation. So there is a lot of consideration with respect to bringing anything, and I think Ashish pointed out to that as well in B2B. Our agenda as a regulated industry is not to sort of get into the forte of consumer experience or growth or competitive advantages when it comes to use of generative AI. We are not the Amazons or Facebooks of the world, right? For us, what matters first of all is improving efficiencies and improving decision making, and can we leverage generative AI in those spectrums?
Mm,
And it is not even generative AI. Even if I was to deploy something as simple as a logistic regression model, even in 2024 today, it goes through 3 months of extensive validation. And
mm.
that's not just here, it happens in pharma, it happens in insurance as well. So it's all about ensuring, given that these models have such hallucinatory problems, given that they can go haywire, whether the constraint is right or not, whether the temperature of the context is right or not, what is it retrieving, how is it being transparent about what it is suggesting or generating as it goes one sequence at a time. So everything with respect to its bias, its transparency, its ability to be robust is where it becomes very, very challenging for us. And that's why I think Rochak also pointed this out. There are a lot of POCs that we all are doing. Not everything goes into the market for the same reason, that it takes a
Mm.
lot of regulatory sort of oversight on making sure we're not putting something out there which has a potential to sort of say something wrong.
Right, right. Very well summarized there. Uh, my final question is to Rochak in terms of, can you maybe share some examples of Gen AI revolutionizing product development, and innovation, or rather innovation processes within terms of generating novel product ideas and designs and so on. You've
Mm.
already touched upon few, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that kind of relates back to the use cases of Gen AI, where it's been getting explored, and kind of relates to the whole R&D department. Uh, but again, coming back to it, I mean, CPG industry, retail industry is all about gaining that additional competitive advantage and that share in the market. So it's a really, I'll not say close knit, but closely monitored market where everyone is just out there to each everyone else's pie. So obviously, I mean, generating more and more content, things people think that it's like a secret sauce that can help them to gain that competitive edge. Uh, but I would say we are still kind of harnessing that potential in terms of where it can lead to in terms of R&D. So there was this article I was reading the other day that we have all been talking about Chat GPT and the buzz it has created. But there's a company called Taste Wise, which actually has launched their own version of Taste GPT, which is again a Gen AI platform and specifically for brands and CPGs. And what it does is it helps them validate ideas for new products, innovations, and launches. And the way it works is again scrape the web, but from social media, best-selling restaurants, their reviews, certain home cooking panels who have signed up for it to kind of capture the trends of ongoing flavors, ingredients. So kind of helping companies, discover those new ideas. Again, a very niche market, but it's again, there's somewhere people have to start, and that was quite intriguing. It's something that is already out there, and people are, or also organizations are actually trying to see how best to harness the potential. And the another bit I would say is more about the brands and CPGs. They are starting to reach out more to the end consumer. So what Gen AI or as such, this whole platform is letting them do is connect to the end user to co-create content. So if you're aware, there was a campaign that Coke launched, I think last Christmas or the Christmas last to the last one, which was about creating real magic, where they invited everyone to get on their website and use Coca-Cola archives for their branding material, and then all those digital people can come in and build new digital content for Christmas greetings. So it was more about getting the platform to the consumers, and again to the point where Ashish was mentioning about having certain opportunities and avenues for creating brand loyalty. So kind of a step towards that, trying to invite users and be part of the whole development. And they're actually planning to now take it a step ahead where they have actually, launched what Coke flavor would look like in 2030, which is I think named as Coca-Cola Y3000. So you'll search on the web, you'll find details about it. So I mean, it's all about again that point that Naveen mentioned, that hallucinatory effect of Gen AI. So it's just about people putting out all those nuggets of what possibilities it actually caters to. But then again, I think in summaries, companies are beginning to do these pilot projects before they actually expand to more complex applications. But that being said, I mean, it's a very really interesting area how to do it in terms of the whole R&D and do it right. So I mean, it's still the potential that the Gen AI has to realize in terms of generating its responsibility. And I think that's where the whole future would lie in terms of company seizing those opportunities in the right way. Because it's all about, avoiding any potential missteps.
Right, right. Right. So thank you. Those were all of the questions that I had for you. And I'd like to thank you again for joining in. I'll open the floor for questions from the audience. Let's see if there are any questions. I think there's one question from, yeah, Mr. Adarsh, who wants to understand, will it be wise to assume Gen AI is still in its nascent stages of its evolution and will take more time to mature? What do you think about it? Maybe Ashish.
I can, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rochak,
So,
whoever. Yeah, yeah.
so absolutely. I think it's as I said, we're just scratching the surface. See, my biggest problem when of course, everyone's talking about Gen AI, AI. My CEO talks about AI all the time. So of course, we are questioned that what are you doing in the AI world? The biggest problem today I have is that where do I implement AI? What are those use cases? Identifying the use cases is the biggest problem.
Yeah,
Whatever use case we talk about, something, I mean, someone touched about Rochak or Naveen touched about this earlier, that it is actually not a Gen AI use case. It's something very simple, right? So we are not yet there where we actually even understand what's the potential of Gen AI. It has immense potential, but I think it's going to take us time to reach over there. It is just the beginning.
right, right.
I think absolutely rightly put, because in our world also there are many specific custom segmentations that we have built, and simple rule based are doing quite well. So it's basically about identifying those use cases. And I mean, as much as it's a journey for us, it's a journey for our clients to let them know, what new it entails in terms of new insights or better processes, better algorithms. So I think it's a journey, and would definitely need some time where we actually scale it up.
Right. Right, thank you for that. I have one more question from audience. Mr. Harish S asks, does RAG help Gen AI from hallucination issue? Naveen, would you want to take that?
Sure. So, I mean, yes, to an extent it does, obviously, because it provides better controls on the
Naveen, would
context.
sorry, would you explain what RAG is for the betterment of our audience, maybe?
So RAG is retrieved augmented generation. Essentially, the idea is that you have a corpus on which the model has been trained already, whatever is that transformer application. And then as a new request comes in, that particular knowledge base, which was used to initially train that model, may not be sufficient or does not have enough context. And so whatever output it will produce just based on that knowledge base query, it would not really have a good quality response. So what instead is being thought about is, can we provide more richness in the prompt itself via an additional context, and that context comes in through the RAG part of it. So the RAG can thereby reference either web or it can reference other knowledge bases, and through similarity scores you can create a better description of your prompt, add more context to it, and thereby through that new context and new text, you probably get a better response. So
Got
RAG
it.
just sort of speeds up and improves the quality of your retrieval at the end of
Mm,
the day.
got it. Got it. Right. Right. Thank you. Actually, if there are no more questions, we can wind up. But audience, if you have any more questions, maybe just raise hand. I can unmute you as well. We'll wait for a minute or two. Right. What we'll do is also we'll have these panel discussion, kind of posted on our social, maybe on our website as well, so you can go ahead and access it later point of time also. If you want to have some of your questions answered, please feel free to reach out to some of our teams, and we'll be happy to provide an answer for your queries. Right. So, I'd like to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for joining in at such short notice, and of course, helping our audiences understand a bit more in terms of Gen AI, how it can be leveraged in business context, so on and so forth. So, thank you once again. One last question. I guess there is one raise of hand. Let me quickly. Okay, I don't see that anymore.
There's a question, Abhinav.
Oh, is there a question? Hold on.
Yes.
Yashish, would you read that out? I can't see that question.
A question from Jitish is asking, are there opportunity to implement generative AI solution for predicting employee turnover and identifying retention strategies based on the data analysis of historic trends? Uh,
Okay, so I'll just quickly repeat that. Now I can access it. Are there opportunities to implement Gen AI solutions for predicting employee turnover? A. And B, identifying retention strategies based on data analysis of historical trend. So yeah, I get this question from human resources side of things. So would you have any nuggets on that, either of you,
I
or
can
maybe
start maybe, and Rochak
yeah.
and Ashish can fill in.
Yeah,
The
go
problem itself of employee turnover prediction and what it requires will not have a lot of generative AI sort of synergies. Again, it's a discriminative task. But yes, towards the same extent that you can sort of augment your data much better, yes, it helps. When it comes to remediation or the retention strategies, yes, generative AI can help in that area as well. But again, it will require a lot more softer touches as to how do you and what do you communicate to your employees and to your customers when it comes to retaining them with respect to your knowledge of why are they exiting based on your other model, which will tell you that information. So from that perspective, yes, and it does happen. So the communications now by a lot of telecom players, AT&T, etc., are leveraging these techniques to improve the way they message and the way they write their responses. So from that perspective, yes, it might help.
Okay, thank you
I
everyone.
can
Thank you
just
for
add to
joining.
it. I can just add
Sorry,
to
sorry,
it.
yeah,
I can
please.
say that what we're thinking about now, someone has thought about it 6 months back. You talk
Mm,
about any company, you talk about Workday, they already implemented this. You talk about Salesforce, they already have Gen AI. They are giving a 360-degree customer view now. So we might think that we need to go fast, but someone is already sprinting. Someone's already running so fast. And it's I think it's a marathon as well. It's just going to be you sprint for this marathon. So people
Wow,
already think about it. These solutions already in place.
that's nicely put. Sprinting for a marathon.
Yeah.
Right. With that thought, I leave the audience with that thought. So thank you everyone for joining in, and yeah, hope you join in for our next set of AI webinars as well. So thank you, panel. Thank you so much for taking out your time.
Thank you, Ran.
Thank
Thanks,
you, everyone.
Abhinav.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Have a good day. Bye.